Swartz. I'm the president and CEO here at the World Affairs Council of Philadelphia, where we have amazing live music all day. Come by anytime. It's totally normal day at work. Thank you all for joining us tonight for our program called World Affairs Table Mexico. The World Affairs Council of Philadelphia is an international affairs experience provider. We have 70 years of expertise in connecting Philadelphia to the world. You can see on our wall here some of the speakers that have graced our stage, school students we've worked with, and trips we've taken around the world. We also offer professional development to adults to figure out how to kiss, bow, or shake hands, and have cultural diplomacy training and beyond. We're very excited to spend the evening with you talking about Mexican-American relations. A partner in a country so close, sometimes we forget that we are two different countries because we're so close together. We have wonderful partners that have brought this program to life this evening. The Mexican Cultural Center and the Greater Philadelphia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce have joined us to bring this program to you. Thank you to our members, our guests, our board members, and new friends who've joined us tonight. I've got a few housekeeping items for us this evening. There's a digital program book, which you can find on our website, or there's a QR code when you walked in. We are trying to go paperless, so please be patient as we do that. There are restrooms down the hall to the right. I warn you, they're more than a half a block away, so plan accordingly. And there's a code, so if you forget the code, it's actually a full block to come back. But the codes are posted on the wall over there. Masks are optional tonight. If you feel comfortable wearing one, please do so. And we are on social media along with the Mexican consulate, so feel free to tweet pictures of your friends tasting mezcal or the musicians, or maybe something you learned tonight that you didn't know before. The format of our program is relatively straightforward. After I'm finished up here in just a moment, we'll have Consul Obrador offer some opening remarks, his positioning on this conversation of Mexican-American relations. Then we'll join a conversation with you all. Come prepared with your questions. I promise you, Consul Obrador is very friendly and open and is an experienced diplomat. I've got a few questions in my pocket for him, but we'd rather have you ask your questions. And when you're ready, raise your hand and someone will bring a microphone to you so everyone can hear. And then afterwards, as you all know, we have a reception planned in a different location in the building. We're moving rooms. And we have a culinary tasting by Chef Alberto Sandoval, the chef de cuisine, at a restaurant called Condesa, which is on 18th Street in Philadelphia. If you have not been, it is one of the most beautiful places in Philadelphia with an open rooftop. I see Mike nodding. Sorry to call you out, Mike. A big open rooftop patio and terrace and really wonderful food, which you'll get a chance to taste tonight. We also have a mezcal tasting. For those of you who have not yet had the opportunity to try mezcal or maybe are a little scared of it, tonight is your night. We have a tasting by Marin y Marin, which will take place upstairs with our food. And now I'm honored to introduce Consul General Obrador. He is the head consul of Mexico in Philadelphia and has held this role since 2019. Prior to that, he was a consul posted in Del Rio, Texas, a border town. And he was also the deputy director for Central America at the Mexican Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He's been part of the Mexican Ministry of Foreign Affairs since 1993. Tonight, there are a wide variety of topics we could cover, and we'll focus on bilateral relations, immigration, trade, and Mexican foreign policy. With that, Consul Obrador, I welcome you to the stage, and when you're finished, we'll sit in conversation.
Beautiful and wonderful turnout. Thank you for the invitation. It is an honor and a pleasure to be here today as part of this great initiative that will allow us to both delve on one of the most important bilateral relationships in the world with an expert like the World Affairs Council of Philadelphia, President and CEO Lauren Swartz, and experienced Mexican culture and cuisine. Thank you again, Lauren and Haley, for making all this possible, as well as the Mexican Cultural Center. I also extend my gratitudes to Condesa's own executive chef, Alberto Sandoval, mezcal experts Luis Enrique Marin Marin and Gabriel Navarro Arrieta, and of course, muchas gracias to Juan Carlos Marin and Eric Perez y Gabriela Grimaldi for that wonderful display of son jarocho, which is an Afro-Mexican musical tradition, not as popular as the mariachi yet, but as relevant for one of the largest states of Mexico, the state of Veracruz, which I am very proud to call home. If you want to learn more about this fascinating music, Juan Carlos and Gabriela and Eric are great sources to ask later tonight. In the hopes of tightening our bonds along what unites us rather than what divides us, my main goal today is to show you what Mexico is, where its bilateral relationships with the United States stand, and our role as the diplomatic representation of Mexico in the states of Pennsylvania, Delaware, and southern New Jersey. Our Mexican identity extends long and wide, so naturally, we are all familiar with food like tacos or guacamole, great touristic destinations like Cancun or Acapulco, and now also some traditions like the Day of the Dead, but there is so much more. I would like to begin by sharing some other lesser-known facts that account for our rich history and culture. Just to mention some, Mexico is the 15th largest country in the world. We share a 2,000-mile border with the United States, 700-mile border with Guatemala, and also Belize. We are the 7th country with the largest number of places declared as World Heritage Sites with 35. And also, we have a very large number of, as you can see in the number, 68 official languages in Mexico in addition to Spanish. And this is the native and the native languages in Mexico. I would also like to offer a quick overview of our political organization, which has indeed many similarities to the US, but a significant difference in the election of our president directly by popular vote every 6 years. The winner is elected by the largest number of votes, and it's comprised, our government, by one president, 128 senators, and 500 deputies, or as you call them here, representatives. As you can see here in the next slide, our current president won with a clear majority not previously seen and the largest popular vote in Mexican history, having a great positive impact for Mexico's stability. He won with 53% of the vote, followed by the second largest, it was 22, so more than double. As you can see in the next slide, 4 years later, which is today, the president still maintains an overwhelming approval, not only in Mexico's history, but in comparison to other 22 leaders, as you can see by Morning Consult. His good friend Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, is hard to beat with almost 80% of popularity versus 70% of our Mexican president, but he's getting closer. President López Obrador's approval over time has obviously changed depending on different factors, but even though the challenging period of the pandemic, he maintained over 50% of approval, and judging by the trend, the next 2 years should follow the course, allowing for more positive changes and reforms based on that initial democratic bonus. Consequently, the perception of how the country is doing has followed a steady pattern even through the pandemic. So with that in consideration, why should we keep looking at Mexico? Mexico is a great place for doing business, sitting along the top of the world ranking of doing business back in 2019. For example, more than what I can say, this video will better illustrate it.
Mexico is the top destination to invest in Latin America. As an export power and one of the top 10 recipients of foreign investment worldwide, Mexico is a remarkable business partner. Here are the top 10 reasons to invest in Mexico. 1. We offer preferential access for your exports. Our network of 14 free trade agreements allows preferential access to 50 countries, which represent over 1.3 billion consumers and 60% of the world's gross domestic product. 2. Our country guarantees legal certainty for your investment. We have 30 bilateral investment agreements with 31 countries that provide legal certainty to investors. 3. We have a strategic location. We have consolidated our economy as the most important trading partner of the United States, and we are part of the most relevant free trade zone in the world, North America, thanks to the USMCA. From 2019 to 2020, $1.6 million circulated through our ports and highways every minute to the rest of the world. 4. We are a predominantly open economy. Mexico's foreign trade is a driver of economic growth that in 2020 represented 75% of our gross domestic product. And amid a global economic crisis, foreign investors rely on us. It's no wonder that in 2020, we are one of the top 10 foreign investment recipients. 5. We offer a highly skilled, productive, and specialized workforce. Together with Germany, Sweden, Portugal, and Finland, we are one of the top 10 countries with the highest number of young engineering graduates. We are collaborating with the private sector in dual education models for the specialization of the Mexican workforce. 6. We have macroeconomic stability. The World Bank recognizes Mexico as a country with great economic potential that in the last decades has achieved macroeconomic stability with low levels of inflation rate. 7. Over the last 22 years, 65,534 companies have invested in Mexico. The total investment that Mexico has received since 1999 amounted to $625.1 billion. We are an ideal partner for your innovative project. In 2021, Mexican startups have raised nearly $3 billion, a historic value over the last 9 years. 8. The South-Southeast can be a suitable ally for your investment project. The federal government is developing strategic projects in the South-Southeast region of Mexico to promote its participation in international trade and investment flows. The integral program of the Isthmus of Tehuantepec and the Mayan Train are examples of such projects that will connect this region with the world. We are working on the facilitation of a development corridor for the establishment of enterprises in Veracruz, Oaxaca, Campeche, Tabasco, Yucatan, Chiapas, and Quintana Roo. 9. Mexico's trade is highly integrated into global value chains. Our main exports supply the value chains in sectors such as the automotive, airspace, pharmaceutical, and critical minerals. 10. More than 1 million foreigners called Mexico their home. Mexico ranks among the top 10 destinations for international tourism with more than 30 million foreign tourists a year. We are Mexico, the economy in Latin America for your global and innovative business. Let us transform your next project. Our home is your home.
Gobierno de México.
And so here is some more in-depth information on Mexico's place in the world, which, as you can judge, is pretty relevant. We're the 11th largest economy in the world. Mexico's economy grew by almost 5%, 4.8% in 2021, despite supply chain and pandemic-related challenges. And how did we get there? With transformation and diversification. Our non-oil and gas exports are close to 100%, when in the 80s, they were only 22% of our output. And also through cooperation and integration. As you can see, becoming a manufacturing global powerhouse that has been closely correlated to the approval of NAFTA, now the USMCA, the US-Mexico-Canada Agreement. Manufacturing now makes up for the largest percentage of our GDP, not only above oil and gas, but also tourism and remittances. Long story short, the world wants to make business with Mexico in every sector, as can be seen here, in aerospace, automotive, energy, oil, gas, and eolic, medical devices, home appliances, electrical systems, and sensors, for instance. Mexico is proud of its dynamic present and bright future, one that is inexorably linked to that of the United States. And what better day to be talking about this than today, when the U.S.-Mexico high-level security dialogue is taking place at the State Department as we speak, with Mexico's Foreign Minister Marcelo Ebrard, who is my boss, Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, Attorney General Merrick Garland, and Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who, by the way, just a few hours away, and I quote, mentioned, "Our strong partnership with Mexico helps make communities in both countries safer and more prosperous." In our meeting today, Minister Ebrard and I reaffirmed our commitment to advancing the U.S.-Mexico bicentennial framework for security, public health, and safe communities. Fruitful meetings like this between Secretaries Marcelo Ebrard and Antony Blinken, heads of the diplomacies of Mexico and the U.S., are always good news to advance crucial topics as the fight against arms trafficking, attention to the causes of migration, and boosting the electric vehicle industry in the region. This in advance to the bicentennial celebration of the U.S.-Mexico relations in December 12th of this year, and President Biden's upcoming visit to Mexico for the trilateral meeting of the USMCA partners. Trade between Mexico and the USA is at the center of this strong partnership. It has consistently grown year after year, especially due to NAFTA, now USMCA. I would like to specifically point out two very noteworthy takeaways. Last August, Mexico positioned itself as the U.S. main trading partner, surpassing both Canada and China. Sorry, Joshua. I see my colleague from Canada. Yes, and we take first, second, so it's, sorry. And in 2021, our $661 billion worth of trade meant $1.3 million every minute, or 81 minutes every hour, every 81 millions every hour, 2 billions every day, 13.7 billions every week, or 55 billion every month. I like to repeat that because to me it's impressive. So take the following fact. Mexico is the top supplier of fruit and vegetables to the U.S., proof again of the interreliability between both countries. Our integration is such that before a final good comes out to the market, it at least passed 7 times across the border. Say a car. The airbag design is done, for instance, in Seattle. Materials is sent to Coahuila, Mexico, a bordering state with Texas, where it is manufactured, then sent back and forth for installation in other states of Mexico and the United States, including Pennsylvania. So what about Pennsylvania? Mexico has been present in the state for the past 196 years, when the second consulate of Mexico in the whole U.S. was established in Philadelphia in 1826. We gained independence from Spain in 1821. The first consulate we opened in 1824 in New Orleans to manage the trade with the U.S., and the second oldest consulate is Philadelphia, 1826. So now our relationship is very much mirrors that of our regional USMCA integration with Canada also as a top trading partner. Mexico is Pennsylvania's second largest export buyer and third largest trading partner. The main products traded are chemicals, electronics, and auto parts, as well as and I was just illustrating with this other example. As you can see, this strong partnership has maintained over time and continues to considerably grow. Just as an example, 50 of the most important Mexican companies established in Pennsylvania generate at least 16,500 jobs. You can see the transnational companies from Mexico operating in the state of Pennsylvania are Gruma, Cemex, Bimbo, Arco, Sigma, Vitro, just to mention a few. The most important Mexican companies also have substantial presence in Delaware and the south of New Jersey, areas that are also served by the Mexican consulate in Philadelphia. It is undeniable that the important Mexican presence abroad is felt strongest in the United States, and Pennsylvania is no different. As I was saying, our presence in the area of Pennsylvania, Delaware, and New Jersey dates back almost 200 years. Since then, it has become home to thousands of hardworking people who are behind the success of many local businesses and industries as seasonal farm workers, business persons, doctors, engineers, and many other roles, professors as well, and we have two great ambassadors of Professors Araceli and Luz from Temple and Drexel. As the diplomatic representation for over 300,000 people of Mexican origin, the Consulate of Mexico in Philadelphia's main mission is to protect the rights and interests and dignity. We do that in a threefold way that includes consular services like issuance of passports, consular IDs, marriage registration and birth registration, as well as wills. The consular protection in the immigration areas, labor and family matters, and community affairs, implementing very successful education, health, and community empowerment programs. Such a great job is made possible thanks to the collaboration of longtime partners and organizations, just like the World Affairs Council of Philadelphia and Citizen Diplomacy International Philadelphia, with whom we have done great things separately, and now, after the merger of their two strong legacy traditions in foreign affairs, I am confident and certain that we will continue to do many more. Congratulations to all of you. Lastly, I would like to get the audience as excited as we are to share our food and culture and spirits with this little video, The Taste of Mexico in Philadelphia. This is our video of our celebration of the Mexican Independence Day that it took place at Penn's Landing. Penn's Landing. It was my first after almost 3 years of pandemic. So I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much. I should probably mention real quick that there were during the time of the event from 2 to 8, we had about 15,000 people. So that year when you see me crying Viva Mexico in front of 13,000 people, it was hard not to get my legs shaking, the nervousness, but it went very well. Thank you.
Well, we have a flag for you here if you'd like to recreate that moment.
Oh, yes. yes, much better, smaller crowd, yes.
There's no pressure.
Yes.
If the mood strikes you, we're ready.
Right,
Okay.
yes, all right.
Well, Consul Obrador, thank you for the opening
Thank you,
comments.
Laura.
And I think it's so important to reframe these relationships, right? To think about the amount of money, the billions of dollars that are going back and forth, the people that are going back and forth, 300,000 Mexican or Mexican Americans that are served just by this consulate that many people don't even realize is here unless you dine in the Bourse and you look up and you think, what is going on up there, right? That's where the consular office is at the moment.
Exactly.
So I've got a few questions for you, and then of course we're happy and excited to have audience participation too. I'd like to talk a bit about the recent legislation. Congress has been busy passing a lot of bills and acts recently in the United States that affect trade and international business and investment. The CHIPS Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, and the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, right? They all have pieces in them that affect how we do business with other countries. And when we talk with our colleagues in Europe, they think, gosh, Mexico and Canada, they've got it good, right? Because there's many provisions in these bills that build on the USMCA to create opportunities in the supply chain. My question for you is that the view in Mexico? Are these bills and acts being viewed as truly positive opportunities for Mexico, or are there concerns from our friends in Mexico about this legislative action and spending that's coming our way?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Lauren. I think it is a great opportunity to expand trade thanks to these initiatives by Congress and President Biden, which have into consideration Mexico and Canada, because obviously we have made that commitment since we signed the NAFTA, now USMCA agreement in 1994 that came into effect with Mexico on board. We made that a priority to make the region of North America the most productive and able to compete against other blocs in the world. So we are definitely on board, and we are just making sure in the dialogue that we have. A few months ago, we had the high economic dialogue with the United States authorities, and obviously looking into how we can come into that equation and help make a stronger North America. For instance, Mexico is one of the top producers of lithium, which, as you know, is the future for the batteries of the electric cars. So we will be working with the American industry, the U.S. government, Canadian government, to provide that lithium for the future of the car industry, at least. Yes.
Does Mexico then also have the opportunity to attract additional foreign direct investment from other countries who want to sort of ally shore or friend shore or near shore, there's many terms for this, into Mexico to then access the North American market and this opportunity that we see?
Yes, and I think that's what is attractive about Mexico, that we also have like 14 different trade agreements with different regions of the world. For instance, we have a free trade agreement with Europe. We have a free trade agreement with Japan. And so that helps us attract companies from those countries that want to export tax-free or free of tariffs into the United States.
Yes. The Europeans are sandwiching the United States with free trade agreements in Canada and Mexico.
Right.
And we haven't been able to get that done in this country, so it's a good opportunity for our USMCA partners.
Yes.
So sticking a little bit on the world stage and thinking about foreign policy, are there places in the world or in the realm of foreign policy where Mexico and the United States have very different positions? I think when we think about North America, we think we probably move together, right? We move together certainly as a market, and that's influential. And so there's an assumption, I think, on the Americans' part, if I can forgive me for speaking for all of America right now, that we probably move together on foreign policy is heavily assumed with Canada. Is that true with Mexico as well, or are there foreign policy disagreements that are important to recognize?
I think for us, we are very clear in terms of the Mexican government where the priorities stand. And it's something that we cannot, for instance, the importance of the relationship with the United States and Canada, thanks to the USMCA agreement, that is a priority that we cannot jeopardize, of course, because it depends. You know, we have 40 million Mexican Americans living in the United States, the largest diaspora of one country into another. And similarly, by the way, there is no other country that has 2 million Americans, citizens living, U.S. citizens living outside the United States, and that is Mexico. Depending, by the way, on the source, it could be, you know, the American embassy talks about 1.5 million U.S. citizens in Mexico, or the Migration Policy Institute might have a different number. But just to say that, so it is a priority. We tend to work together with our partners in North America in some of the issues. We have, of course, Mexico is an independent and sovereign country, and we might have different views on different issues around the world, but we always, like in any family, we might agree to disagree. Yes.
And perhaps keep those disagreements, as I say, at the kitchen table back home.
Right.
And not say at the UN.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we appreciate that. Thank you for that. Does anybody have any questions from the audience? All right. And Harvey, could I ask you to wait for a microphone, and then we'll bring one right to you. Thank you.
I'd like to follow up on your question and ask, how have you been involved or been disengaged from Russia since the invasion of Ukraine?
Disengage from Russia. Well, we have, since before the invasion, we have a long tradition of bilateral relations with Russia as we have with Ukraine. Our position about Russia has been very clear. What happened in the invasion, we have condemned that invasion because of our own history. We cannot support the invasion of one country because we were invaded 4 times and we lost half of our territory. So obviously we are against that. Yes.
Has your trade been impacted?
The trade, well, I think maybe the fertilizers, which is key for the agriculture industry. Some of our fertilizers come from Russia and Ukraine, and that has been impacted because of the ports have been closed, etc. Yes, definitely, we are feeling that, and also in the volatility of prices as well. We are suffering that, even though the spike in Mexico in prices is kind of under control because of some regulations and some policies implemented by the federal government that has helped us reduce the inflation. Thank you.
Okay. I think Art Freeman, and Jeff will bring a microphone to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Watching the video, it's easy to understand why immigration from Mexico to the U.S. is way, way down. But immigration now from Central and North and South America, as it streams through Mexico, I guess a lot of them even stay in Mexico. So do you have any thoughts of how we might deal with that as everything coming up from Central and South America?
Yes, thank you for the question. I think it's through regional cooperation. Now we are seeing, as you well said, immigration from, Central America, South America, but also extra-continental migrants from Africa and Asia. And they come through, obviously, Central America and Mexico. So we are working. There is it's called the Conferencia Regional de Migración, the Migration Regional Conference. I'm not sure if that's the proper name, but in Spanish it's Conferencia Regional de Migración, where different countries in the continent get together and we try to plan and work together in order to manage the flow of migrants in an orderly, safe way. Yes, but it's a challenge. It is a challenge.
And Debbie's had her hand up here in front. Jeff?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi. I'd like to broach a more difficult topic. When you're talking about immigration, I assume this is legal immigration. But I would like you to speak to people that come across the border illegally without papers. Because of my work, I encounter lots of different kinds of people going into their homes. And, you know, this was a beautiful presentation, but there seems to be a lot of poverty and people unable to get jobs in Mexico, which is why they probably end up here. So if you could speak to what's going on at the border and all of that issue, however you feel you can address it.
Yes, definitely. Now things are changing drastically in Mexico in terms of focusing and combating through social policies in Mexico that, just to give you an example, there are 35 million families in Mexico. Out of those 35 million families in Mexico, that makes 130 million Mexicans in Mexico. You have to add 40 million in the United States, so for a 170 million Mexican universe, 30 million of those 35 millions are receiving some kind of support by the federal government. To give you an example, mothers, and I lost the word, how do you say, single mothers, sorry. Single mothers being the support of that household. There is a special program to support all mothers, single mothers, so their kids continue in their education. Also, support for students, so those students continue the school and don't drop out of the school. There is different programs to take those kids away from, you know, bad behaviors or being recruited by the organized crime, etc. And the poverty level in Mexico is going down thanks to that. Now, you have to take into account the sheer number of Mexicans in the United States, which is also a pull factor, you know, for migration. You have almost 38, 40, I like to round up numbers, 40 million Mexican Americans in the United States. So there is an attraction there for their families that are back home, right? But that poverty, that you're right, level is still high, but that is a priority for the current government not to let anyone behind. And with the idea that nobody would have to leave Mexico, forced to leave Mexico because of poverty or crime or any other reasons, but just because they want to come and visit, right, on their own will. Yes, not being forced to migrate because of the condition of poverty or violence. So we're working, the federal government in Mexico is working towards that goal.
Thank you. Harold has a question in the back.
Good afternoon. So our news here in America portrays a lot of Americans moving to Mexico post-pandemic and disrupting your housing markets. Is that true, or what are the policies and what's the attitude of people on the ground about what I'm hearing is a significant influx of Americans into Mexico, I guess particularly Mexico City, for the substantial difference in housing costs?
Yes, you are totally right. It creates, like, if you have, some of you have been to Ajijic or San Miguel de Allende, where we have a lot of Merida, where we have a lot of expats come from Canada and what we call snowbirds, right, from Canada and United States. Of course, your economic level or power is greater than in Mexico, and therefore, you know, you are able to afford those homes, and those homes will be will go up in their prices, and yes, it will make some pressure on the local market. But yeah, no, we are very happy. It's a very important source of income as well for Mexico. As I mentioned, we have almost 2 million U.S. citizens in Mexico that make Mexico home, and it's a very important partnership that we have, and we continue to expand other areas. The idea of this exchange or this forum is nice for us to also promote other areas less known as Acapulco or Ajijic or San Miguel de Allende or the Baja Peninsula, right? But yes, it's, we want to attract more Americans and Canadians to come to Mexico and have their homes there. We know it's also very attractive for different reasons. Not only it's cheaper, which is your dollar is, gets you more there, but also if we talk about other concerns about, for instance, access to abortion, you can have that in Mexico, no problem. Or health insurance, or get medical treatments at affordable prices, you can go to Mexico. So there are many different things that the American public is discovering that why it's worth it trying and going to Mexico. More and more. It's incredible. I mean, we receive every single day calls at the consulate of people, American families wanting to even get refuge in Mexico. Incredible, yes.
Wow. The job of a consul is never done.
No?
More questions from the audience. Haley? Yeah. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Consul Obrador. I'm from Mexico. I'm proudly from Mexico City. You have mentioned in the video that the Tren Maya is going to attract a lot of tourism into Mexico. When is the Tren Maya estimated to be operating in full capacity?
Yes, thank you for that question. It's a very important question because that is one of the plans, the strategies of the current government is to develop the southwest of Mexico. It has traditionally, we have bet on the development of the northern and central states in Mexico, forgetting about the development of the southwest. So that Tren Maya is one of the projects in the southwest of the country that we believe is going to improve the quality of life, the availability of jobs, and so that Tren Maya project is going to be done in 1 year, next year, yes, in 1 year, before the end of the term of President López Obrador. The idea is to finish that Tren Maya, which, by the way, is not only one, but 3 trains, and we're working with different, with Alstom and Bombardier, that are from Canada and France, that are providing the trains. Yes, and along with other projects, the transseismic corridor that will connect Salina Cruz, Oaxaca, with Veracruz. It's Salina Cruz, Oaxaca, with another port in Coatzacoalcos, is in Minatitlan, on the Gulf of Mexico as well. Yes.
Fantastic. We've got a question here in the back. Jeff will bring a microphone to you.
Thank you. Mexico has had a tremendous amount of economic success, and that has relieved a lot of problems in relationship between Mexico and the United States, for instance, for immigration. Does Mexico have policies or recommendations to help other countries in the Western Hemisphere achieve this type of success? Because long term, I think that the economic viability of the Western Hemisphere is going to be very, very important for international relations between those countries and the United States and Mexico. So how can Mexico help that progress in other countries, and what advice does Mexico have for the United States to help that?
Yes, thank you for the question. I guess we don't have any advice to our good friends in the United States, but we are probably by example what we are doing in Central America, and this is something that President López Obrador has proposed President Biden. We, since day one of President López Obrador, 4 years ago, we started a program. The federal government of Mexico started a program with Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, and Belize, which is called Jóvenes Construyendo el Futuro, Youth Building the Future. And this program creates opportunities for the young generations, for the students and young workers to stay and not to migrate. And the way to retain them is to provide them with, I forgot the name, internships or apprenticeships, opportunities with companies. So we are giving them a salary, a very good monthly salary to retain them in that, let's say, factory or business where they will get qualifications and they will get to know, for instance, how to weld or learn different activities. And also in the countryside as well. We have other programs for helping farmers to grow crops, different crops based on their weather. And so that program is going to be, the U.S. Government is on board of that program, and they will start funding that program along with Mexico in Central America. And that we have seen the success, at least because we are also applying that program in the southwest of Mexico. And we are seeing the benefits of that, which is retain the youth, retain the people, creating the opportunities locally so they don't have to leave their communities. And so we are doing that with these governments that I mentioned. Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Belize. And I believe the Dominican Republic is also exploring the idea of knowing more about these programs. Jóvenes Construyendo el Futuro and Sembrando Vida. How would you translate? Sembrando Vida is sowing life. So this is the program in the agricultural sector. And it's been very successful. Yes.
Larry's got a question up here. I'll bring a microphone to you.
Thank you. When President Lopez Obrador was elected, my understanding from reading the newspapers is that it was kind of an upset because he doesn't hail from the traditional party, the Institutional Revolutionary Party that usually governs Mexico. And I don't think we here in this country really understand very much about what he is all about. So could you explain a little bit about his governing philosophy and how it would differ from, say, a candidate from the Institutional Revolutionary Party?
Yes, thank you. He started as a young politician, the only party in Mexico for almost 70 years was the Revolutionary Institutional Party, the PRI. And so he, at the beginning, when he was a youngster, he belonged to that party. But then he broke up with, he left that party and he started working with different indigenous organizations in his home state in Tabasco, Mexico. And so he has always been, since then, a social leader. I would say the most important social leader in a century in Mexico. And he has implemented some very good policies, and his philosophy, and he all the time mentions this, I'll say it in Spanish and I'll repeat it, I'll try to translate it in English, but his motto of his government is, por el bien de todos, primero los pobres, which is for the well-being of all, first the poor. And that's his priority. That's why out of those 35 million families that comprise the Mexican population, 30 million are receiving one or two different social programs helping them. And one key, which I think it has been the success of his government, is the first thing he did when he came into power is to separate the political power of the economic power. So no longer the economic power in Mexico, the big business in Mexico, is running the government. And that has allowed him room to focus on the most important of all, which is, lifting millions of people out of poverty. And thanks to that independence, I believe he's reaching that goal. And you can see it in his approval ratings, 77%, almost 80% of approval ratings the last time I checked, like today. Yes. Yeah, really, is that morning consult is today?
I get the feeling you check those quite often. Yeah. Something tells me.
Oh, yeah, we need to be informed.
A consul's job is never done.
Yes.
This time has gone by so quickly, but we will be able to continue our conversation upstairs, where Consul Obrador and many of his colleagues from the Mexican consulate are here with us tonight. So more dialogue and discussion to come. But I'm also standing between you and a mezcal tasting, and the chef of Condesa, and I certainly don't want to keep you much longer. Please join me in giving a round of applause to Consul Obrador.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you very much. This is a nice program. Great, thank you.
A few closing comments and a bit of instruction for you for what's coming next. And thanks to all of you for being here with us tonight. Our members, our friends, our new guests, thank you for joining us. And our partners at the Mexican Cultural Center and the Greater Philadelphia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and our venue partner, the Bond Collective. I hope you enjoyed the program tonight and that you'll consider joining us again. We're doing something very similar on October 24th right here with the Consul General of China, who's based in New York but covers Philadelphia, an open discussion Q&A, a program called the Diplo Chat that sort of speaks for itself. On October 26th, we'll be hosting the one and only Chris Matthews, Philadelphia's hometown guy. He's written a book called This Country. My question for him is like, what do you mean, like, oh, this country? Or like, this country, like, where are we, right? For somebody who started his career in politics and served in the Peace Corps and was a speechwriter for presidents and was on TV as a commentator for so long. It'll be a fireside chat on October 26th at the University of the Arts at Broad and Pine, and everyone will receive a copy of his book as well. And on November 11th, we have a program in partnership with KYW News Radio called What Just Happened, Midterms 2022. We've planned it for the Thursday after Election Day, optimistically hoping that we'll know maybe what has just happened. Come and join us and find out. We'll be joined by Jim Cowley, the former Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania, Lauren Make from NBC 10, and we will discuss what just happened and the impact locally as well as globally for our own communities, but also what happens in Congress and within our political landscape.
Will that be at the KYW studio?
That will be in-house at the KYW studio, so it's also pretty cool to get to check out the radio studios. They've got a pretty nice setup over there. So we look forward to hopefully seeing you at those events coming up soon. My one favor to you before we break for the reception is we'll send you a short survey after this, either on Zoom or in your email. Please take a minute and let us know what you think. We're here for you, and if the program's great, we'll do more. If you want it to be different, we'll do something different. So please share your thoughts. And now for some soft diplomacy, some cultural diplomacy, which is diplomatic speak for fun.
Yes.
We are really excited to move this group upstairs to the 20th floor of this building at a space called the Bond Collective. We keep nodding over here to our colleague Josh Dillard, who is the Trade Commissioner of Canada. And he happens to have an office at the Bond Collective and is co-hosting us tonight. So we do have a true North American partnership this evening. Josh has also said that there may be some Canadian whiskey around. So if mezcal is not your thing, or we need to have some kind of taste off, I don't know what plans you have for early in the morning, but Josh is the guy. So the setup upstairs is this. We'll have from 7 to 8:30 together. For the first 15 minutes, enjoy, taste. The chef is there, and the food is all labeled, and it's not tacos and burritos, right? Those are very accessible to us. So it's different types of food. And the mezcal will be out, although about 15 minutes into the program, the chef will give us a few words about his cuisine and his philosophy on Mexican food. And then Marin Iminen will lead us in a short mezcal tasting. So you might choose to save your mezcal for that. We've got a wonderful selection of Mexican beers, wine, non-alcoholic refreshments as well. So a short program, but that's really hearing from our culinary guests tonight. Make yourself comfortable when you're there, and then leave when you're ready. I will say that this is an old, beautiful, historic building, which means we have old, weird, complicated elevators. So to get from the 10th floor to the 20th floor is a bit of a maze. However, we have secured the building to give us a dedicated elevator for tonight. So we have the World Affairs Council staff that will lead you to the elevator that will take you right up to the 20th floor. If you try and get there on your own, I wish you luck. Every time I go visit Josh, I'm like 15 minutes late, even though we're in the same building. And there's restrooms up there. It's a beautiful space. I do ask you to take all of your things with you tonight. We'll close up this space for the evening. We welcome you to leave all of your extra umbrellas. We'll put them to good use. And we'll see you upstairs in a few minutes. Muchas gracias.
Gracias.